Councillor Becky Bogdan, Councillor George Handley, myself, Catrice McKay, Councillor Gary Garrett, and Councillor Craig Christensen. Today's prayer will be provided by Becky Bogdan, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Travis Hoban if he's back. Otherwise, I'll do it.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for this day and for the opportunity that we have to discuss the business of Provo City. We'd like to ask you if that could please bless us, that we can have our minds clear and that we can make the best decisions for the city and for the residents. And please bless that we can have the things that we stand in need of. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ.
Thanks, Becky.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recognize that we do know it's caucus night and we are planning on getting out of here by 6:30. And worst case scenario, we'll have to push some things if we go long. But we'd also like to recognize that Mayor Michelle Kafusi has joined us. As indicated on the screen, a required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided to all those who wish to speak. For items that do not require public hearing, public comment will still be taken following presentation of the item, but will be limited to 10 minutes. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for an open public comment period, which is intended to allow comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Persons who speak during this time to an item that is on the agenda will not normally be afforded a second opportunity to speak during the comment period specific to that item. During any public comment period, each speaker will generally be limited to 2 minutes. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Those participating on Zoom will need to use the raise hand feature to indicate they wish to comment. The chair may choose to alternate between in-person and online commenters. Please begin your comments by stating your name and your city of residence. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Hi, I hope you're all well this afternoon. My name is Bonnie Schiffler-Olson. I'm a longtime resident of Provo, and I express my gratitude that I'm able to have this privilege to actually speak to you today. And obviously, my issue of concern is our unhoused in Provo, whom I consider equal residents and as should have equal rights under the Constitution of the United States. My primary concern right now, and it will be ongoing, is that we re-examine the anti-camping ordinance. It has been ruled in a Supreme Court, I believe in another district, that similar anti-camping ordinances are unconstitutional under the Eighth Amendment. Sleeping is required to function as a human being. And so whenever there is no shelter available, I believe that our people should have the option of camping if that's how they are able to shelter themselves. I am a peer support specialist here, which means I have experienced homelessness myself. I also have I came to Provo as a businesswoman. It was 2 years later that I escaped domestic violence and found myself without shelter for myself and my 4 children. There are resources available in the community to help those who are fortunate enough to procure those to raise out of homelessness. Obviously, I am an example of that. I'm here to serve the city in any way that I can. This is a very difficult situation. I understand that local attitudes are sometimes not kind toward my.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hello again. Please state your name for the record.
Okay, so my name is Anetu Morin. Sorry, I got a little cough. My bad. Um, okay, so again, kind of like what I said 2 weeks ago. I'm still trying to learn the verbiage of, I mean, like let's be very clear. I'm still trying to learn the verbiage of the city council meeting, and I think in the future I'm going to be able to be a little better on that. But that being said, though, I want to, and I want to give another disclaimer that I am practically homeless, but I'm not here to say anything about homelessness because I think that's a personal issue. So I was going through the minutes, and I just wanted to say that my comment today is that when we vote on things, again, I'm not an expert, whether it be getting approved minutes, excuse me, whether it is minutes being approved for funds or whatever you guys do, with due respect, I think that's a legitimate process, and it's identified to be legitimate, whether city council members are physically here or whether they're virtually online. And so I was doing a little research to try to understand how that works. You know what I'm saying? If a city council member isn't able to come to meeting, you know what I'm saying? What's the process? So if it's something, I mean, is it the same? If a city council member is voting online versus you guys being here, is that equivalent? And so
If they are over Zoom and we can hear their voice and they're speaking and they can vote a yes or no, it counts. They can't like text a vote or
okay,
type a vote.
okay, and then just okay, and because anyway, next week I'm gonna
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is June. I'm a resident of Provo. I wasn't initially planning on speaking on the issue that was spoke about first about the anti-camping ordinances, but I'd just like to voice my support of what the speaker said. Those ordinances do nothing but make those of us who are clearly already having a worse time than everyone here suffer more. I'm wholly against them. But what I'd like to speak about here is I'm here to encourage the Provo City Council to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire to the war in Palestine. Over 30,000 Palestinian civilians have already been killed. The precise numbers are unknown due to how much destruction Israel has been causing in the area. And there are no more fully functioning hospitals in Gaza due to this same destruction. There are already numerous reports of children dying due to starvation or lack of adequate medical care, as so much aid is being barred from entering Gaza. Regarding the ceasefire resolution, already over 70 cities have passed similar ceasefire resolutions, including major cities such as Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, and Detroit. And polls consistently find that 60 to 70% of Americans support a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, including around 50% of Republicans and 80% of Democrats. In the House of Representatives recently, Representative Cory Bush drafted a resolution that simply states that they would urge the Biden administration to immediately call for and facilitate de-escalation and a ceasefire to urgently end the current violence and call upon the Biden administration to promptly send and facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. This same resolution could be easily altered to reference Provo City Council instead of the House of Representatives, and then passed by Provo City Council to show support for ending the violence and destruction in Gaza. Passing a ceasefire in Gaza is the only humanitarian solution. There is nothing but death and suffering that will come from a continuation of this violence, and the greater support that can be gained for a ceasefire can further that campaign and possibly put an end to the suffering there. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. June, we need your last name, please.
Oh, Welker, June Welker.
Welker, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we're going to move on to our action agenda items. We have an implied motion on an ordinance vacating the public street known as Temple Hill Drive and approving a related vacation agreement. And we are also going to read in our second item, an implied motion on a resolution placing a 0.366 acre parcel of ground in the vacated right-of-way of Temple Hill Drive on the surplus property list and approving the sale to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And Brian will speak to both of those.
Thank you, Chair McKay, councilors, mayor. So I'm going to go quickly through the slide deck from a presentation that you received a month ago in the work session, just for the public, but I know we're under some time pressure. So I'm actually going to skip through this description here and just go to the map and kind of describe it from there. So on this map, you can see the current Provo City Temple, I think soon to be known as or maybe already known as the Rock Canyon Provo Temple. This road right here, right now, is a city street that passes in between the temple and these fields over here, which are adjacent to the MTC. This is called Temple Hill Drive. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is remodeling this temple, and as part of their project, they are changing the configuration. They want to change the configuration of the site. And so what they have applied for and asked the city to do is to do what's called a vacation action, which means we take this public right-of-way and we vacate the public right-of-way on this street. The legal consequence of that is when we do it, because of how the street right-of-way was originally obtained, the street property automatically goes back to the adjacent property owners. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints owns all of this property, and they own all of this property down to about right here, okay? So all of that, so both sides of the street all the way to here will automatically go back to the church, and the northeast side of the street right here will go back to the church. Provo City owns this parcel right here. So this piece of the street right here, if you approve the vacation action, will go back to the city. But as part of their project and their site plan, the church would like to buy that piece of property from the city. So that's their petition. Their ask is for the city council to do two things. One, to approve a petition to vacate the public right-of-way on this entire street, and then to place this little piece of the street right here on the surplus property list and approve its sale to the church for fair market value. Now, as a related situation, all of these blue lines on this map are city infrastructure, these dark blue lines. And this is, when I created this map, I didn't even turn everything on. So there's more infrastructure than this. But there is, along here, there's a 48-inch water main. There's also an old 27-inch by 30-inch aqueduct that carries some old spring water, or is at least designed to. And Public Works will correct me if I get any of this wrong, but this is my understanding as the attorney, not as the engineer. There's also an 8-inch water line that goes along the street. There's also another 8-inch water line that crosses right here and connects to city infrastructure. All of that infrastructure will be underneath the church's project. And most of it is 50 years or 50 years old or older. And at some point in the near future will need replacement. So we have worked out an agreement with the church where they would actually pay for both the materials and construction of new water lines that will replace all of those water lines and will lie in one consolidated 55-foot wide utility easement, and then another separate easement right here for this pressure zone connection.
Do we know what that easement's going to be under? Is it under grass? Is it under asphalt?
Well,
It's going to be, obviously it's accessible if we need to.
right. So so there's a very long agreement. So the two actions that are in front of you for you to vote on, one is a vacation ordinance that approves both the vacation of the street and a related vacation agreement between the city and the church, wherein they promise to do all of this construction, and we promise to do the connections at both ends after they're done with all of the work. And we promise to give up the easements we have at the moment, and they promise to give us new easements. As part of the terms of those easements, The easements define certain things that are allowed on top of our facilities. Some of those things are defined by right. Some of those things they can automatically do, like plant grass, build sidewalks, etc. There's also a provision that says they can also build walls, water features, etc., upon written consent from us that those things will not interfere with our ability to maintain the facilities. And on top of that, part of the agreement is that things on, and that's going to be another exhibit when we negotiate those things. There's a draft of it already, but when those things get determined, for example, let's say they put a wall on top of that, and we say it's okay if you put the wall on. There's actually, part of that exhibit will actually be a list of things that if we later have to go in and do work and destroy something, then there's an agreement as to who has to replace it. And so the things that they have to get our permission to even build in the first place are by and large going to be things that they actually have to pay to fix afterwards. My example when we were negotiating was if they bring in a 500-year-old exotic tree and plant it right over the line, we don't want to have to replace that tree when we have to go in and fix our water line. So all of those things have been included in the details of the negotiation and the agreement. And so let's see if I can go one more.
I did notice a lot of the exhibits were missing. Like, do we need those exhibits or those are down the road? Why weren't they in the packet?
The exhibits that are missing are maps and design drawings. The legal documents containing the details and terms of the agreement were all included, but there are a bunch of exhibits that are either legal descriptions of property that are still being reviewed by the surveyors on both sides just to make sure that they're completely accurate, or maps that, Exhibit A to the vacation agreement is a PDF with so many layers of information that the file itself is huge and we couldn't get in. So there are some of those things are still subject to review as far as just making sure that the maps are accurate, but the terms of the deal are in the exhibits that you have.
Okay.
So let's see. So this slide from before just talked about the complications. And so this is the proposal. We're going to provide plans and specifications. They're going to install the lines and pay for all the costs. We will inspect them and approve them. And once the work is accepted, they will turn all that infrastructure over to the city and give us the easements to continue to maintain it. So anyway, and then here in this last bullet point is the purchase price for the small piece that they're buying. So that's the proposal. So it's two separate votes, one on the vacation action to approve getting rid of the public right-of-way, and then another one on a surplus resolution to sell them the little parcel of property.
Thanks,
Any other
Brian.
questions?
Any questions for Brian? I did have a question from what is the Weir house?
Gary, do you want to come answer that? I'm going to turn that over to our public works folks.
Thanks.
Gary Calder with Water Resources, Provo City. The warehouse is a building where the water is collected from wells, the springs. It's mixed together before it goes into the water system. So it's just
Is it on
It's-
our land or is
it's on
it?
water. It's by those two water tanks that you saw.
Okay, and it's going to stay our land. Okay,
It'll stay within our parcel there.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Council discussion then. Any discussion on this item or these two items? All right, we're going to take a vote. Now we have to vote for both of them separately, correct, Brian? So first of all, an implied motion on ordinance vacating the public street known as Temple Hill Drive and approving a related vacation agreement. Councillor Bogdan.
Yes.
Councillor Christensen.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Handley.
Yes.
Councillor Hoban.
Yes.
Councillor McKay, yes. And Councillor Whipple is excused. So that passes unanimously 6-0. Next, an implied motion on a resolution placing a .366 acre parcel of ground in the vacated right-of-way of Temple Hill Drive on the surplus property list and approving the sale to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Councillor Christensen.
Chair McKay, I'm sorry, I should have said this before you voted on the last. I don't think we opened it up for public comment.
We did not. Thank you. We'd like to open up. Should I go back to the first one first?
So let's,
Do it to both
let's
items.
open it up, and if there is comment, then we
Yep.
can revote if it changes anybody's mind, or
Okay.
and if there's none, we can just move on.
We'd like to open up both these items to public comment. Doug is smiling. Is he going to come up? All right. We are going to continue. So an applied motion on a resolution placing a 0.366 acre parcel of ground in the vacated right-of-way of Temple Hill Drive on the surplus property list and approving this sale to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Counselor Christensen.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Handley.
Yes.
Counselor Hoban.
Yes.
Counselor McKay, yes. Counselor Whipple is excused. Counselor Bogdan.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next, we have an applied motion on ordinance text amendment for the adoption of a transferable development right. We're going to call it a TDR overlay zone. And this will be presented by Aaron Ardmore.
Okay, thank you, Council. So in the past few weeks and a little bit last year, you've been introduced to this idea, and in the last couple of weeks, more specifically, the precise language that's being proposed. So just briefly, I can talk about the language itself. We've got Gordon Haight, the city engineer here, to answer any questions about the lots that have been identified for the TDR sending sites or any of the technical aspects of this ordinance. So initially, just to give you background on this and the public background on this, there's several subdivided lots on the east bench of Provo City that are zoned for single-family homes that could be built, but it's in the city's interest to protect these sensitive areas and protect the homeowners from developing there. So the idea of this TDR ordinance was brought forward. As staff looked into it, we looked at examples in Mapleton and Park City for how to write the code and what's worked and what hasn't. Staff has also introduced this idea to a couple of developers, and just to make sure that's going to be marketable as some of these sending sites try to sell their development credits to other developments throughout the city. So what got us here are a number of factors identified through these maps that Gordon can speak to if there are questions. This one specifically shows landslides and intense slopes, and the properties in blue are identified as being at risk. This one shows the fault lines running through these properties, another risk on them. And this one shows rockfall risk. So we want to give these property owners value. We want to give them value, but at the same time, restrict these properties from being built on. So part of this process is to essentially sell the ability to build a unit, a dwelling unit, to somebody else on property that is more feasible for that. And then if that transaction goes through, a conservation easement is placed on the property, so to make it undevelopable for the future. Each one of these sending sites would come back to you with a staff-initiated rezone for the overlay. However, the receiving sites would come to you just as any rezone from an applicant comes to you with a concept plan and a request for the overlay, and would be judged and based on what that brings and how feasible that is. That's all I really have, unless there's specific questions that I could try to answer.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to open up this item up for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? All right, council discussion.
Oh, you think you've got one comment?
Oh, hello.
Hi, my name is Chris Bramhall, and I'm actually here tonight in connection with the vacation.
What city do you live in?
Excuse me?
What city do you live in?
Oh, I live in Farmington.
Thank you.
But I also happen to own a building lot in one of these zones that you're talking about. And we inherited that from my wife's father, and we're stuck with this lot that we can't sell and we can't build on it. So I was actually chatting with Brian a couple of days ago when I heard about this this proposal, and I'm very supportive. I just want to let you know I appreciate the city's efforts to look at ways to help the property owners out. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think maybe some people have that land as their retirement, right? Okay. Any discussion? Counselor Bogdan?
I'm just concerned that these will all end up on the west side. So I am for this as long as we can do some maybe, I don't know, limits on what can happen on the west side and maybe split them up amongst the city.
I mean, the nature is that the majority of them will be on the west side, 'cause that's where the open land is, right? I mean, that's just the reality. If we look at percentages of open land, it'll be like a per capita thing of the open land. And so most of it probably will be on the west side. I
Right.
think
And
you're
so then I'd vote against it for that reason. Because I think if it's on the east bench, you should relocate those there. Or if it's a city problem, we should spread that out.
Counselor Handley?
Yeah, I think I appreciate that concern. I think Bill Pepperoni maybe mentioned this, but I don't, as I understand it, nothing that would get approved would violate any of the plans that we have for the west side. So if there's, in other words, if there's an area in the west side that has medium density residential as indicated on the map, then units could be transferred into that development from these properties, but it wouldn't exceed whatever was already planned for that area. So I don't think this actually makes any measurable difference in terms of what the west side ends up looking like. Am I correct in that, staff?
And whatever happens, we do need to approve, like it will come to us again. Aaron?
Yes, Commissioner Hanley. The density maximums that we've placed on the west side through the general plan, those are still the rule. So the developers that would come and request to purchase these development rights would still be bound by those general plan policies. And again, as Councilor McKay alluded to, each of these rezone requests comes to you. So if you feel that someone's trying to push too much density in an area where it's not appropriate, you could simply deny the rezone request. So the council still has control over where these go. Where they're coming from is the thing that's going to be staff initiated.
Right. But in the areas that we have 4 units to an acre, they could potentially buy more of that and come make them 8 units to an acre or 10 units to an acre because they're buying rights from there to bring it over, right?
No, they would still be bound by the policies in the general plan. So most of the R1 out there on the west side is, as you know, 3 units per gross acre, right? They'd be bound by that. But there are areas of higher density out there where we would see a lot of these going to.
So this would go to the LDR nodes?
We would anticipate the majority of those units going there. They could be wrapped into a single family subdivision through a PD overlay. So there's
So we'd
different
still have
tools
like the
to be used.
6,000 square foot lots versus the 8 to 10,000 square foot lots.
We could have some smaller lots, but again, remember the policies to mix the lot sizes within larger subdivisions on the west side. So there are some protections that we have to make sure that the Southwest plan is followed.
Counselor Christensen? Okay. Any other questions or discussion, counselors? All right, we will take a vote. Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Handley?
Yes.
Counselor Hoban?
Yes.
Counselor McKay, yes. Counselor Whipple is excused. Counselor Bogdan?
No.
Counselor Christensen?
Yes.
So that passes 5-1. All right, this is the last one, guys. An implied motion on an ordinance amending Provo City Code regarding tenant identification wall signs. This is the downtown neighborhood application presented by Mary Barnes.
Thank you. Really briefly, you saw the whole presentation earlier today. This application is to, like you said, increase the number of tenant identification wall signs in the downtown zones from 2 to 3, specifically on 5-story plus buildings. One of the, let me go forward. So, and I probably won't go over that whole presentation again. It seemed like your main question was regarding the existing signs on this building. So
Yeah, did we find out about the one that has 3 sites?
yeah,
already?
I was able to talk to Aaron about this, and let me show you. Okay. How do I do the pointer? This one? Okay, perfect. All right. So, I was wrong. I hate saying that, but I was. This top Wells Fargo sign, that is a building identification sign. So you were
that
right.
doesn't
I
count.
think it was, yeah.
So they could still do another sign even on
So,
this bottom picture.
so this sign in the middle, this Wells Fargo sign, staff counted that as a tenant identification sign as well. So technically so this is a building identification sign, this is a tenant sign, and then this on the other side, that's a tenant identification sign as well. So we still need that ordinance amendment for the third sign, if that makes sense. And then there were some questions about the lower level signs. These 2 on the corners, we've classified as projecting signs is what we're calling them. And then there's the same situation on the north side of the building with that tenant identification sign in a building. Anyways, lots of words. So on this south portion, that where this is a building identification sign up on the top, that Wells Fargo, then this side, Harris, is a tenant identification. Then the Circus Tricks is also a tenant identification sign.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mary? All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will open this item up for public comment. Okay, seeing no public comment, council discussion. Councilor Bogdan.
I have the same concerns that Lisa did, so I'm not going to vote yes on this one, just for that reason. I have concerns about so many signs, especially where they have one of the same sign on the one side and they want the same sign on the next side. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Any other comments? All right, we will vote. Councilor Handley.
Yes.
Councilor Hopen.
Yes.
Councilor McKay, yes. Councilor Whipple is excused. Councilor Bogdan.
No.
Councilor Christensen.
Yes.
And Councilor Garrett.
Yes.
So that passes 5-1. And if there's no objection, we will now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.
No, I did.